Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB game scheduled for Sunday, May 21st, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Sunday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's New York Yankees taking on the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to see Luis Severino making his season debut. Hunter Green on the other side for Cincinnati. Now, I do expect Severino to be a good option in this Yankees rotation as the season continues, and he was last year. I mean, he was 7-3 with a solid 3.18 ERA. However, I do think it could take him a few starts to get back into that mid-season form. We saw him struggle a little bit in his rehab outings in the minor leagues, where he pitched 6 2/3 innings. He had 6 strikeouts, but he gave up a good amount of base hits, a home run as well, a couple of walks. So, I do think that he could struggle in this game. Not to mention, he's also not going to go very deep in this game, probably 4 or 5 innings at the most. And the Cincinnati Reds, Great American Ballpark, very tough place to pitch. I just think it's a tough spot for Severino to make his season debut. Hunter Green on the other side, coming off, not a great outing against the Rockies, but that was at Coors Field. For a guy like Green who has issues giving up the home run ball, if you think Great American Ballpark's tough to pitch at, try pitching at Coors Field. But still overall this season, he's done a pretty good job of limiting the long ball. Only 6 homers in 43 innings. It's certainly an improvement from last year. He has 59 strikeouts this season in those 43 innings. Could he give up a couple of solo home runs to guys like Aaron Judge in this game? Sure, but I do think he limits the damage enough in this one for him to be in line for the W by the end of the game. So give me the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to get a good price with the Reds on the money line. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Justin Steele going for Chicago. No official starter for the Phillies right now. The Phillies have really struggled against left-handed pitchers in the month of May. Even though I see some signs of regression in Justin Steele's game, I can't deny that this is a really good spot for him to have a bounce-back outing after his rough start last time out. When you look at the Philadelphia Phillies in the month of May, they're dead last in baseball in team OPS. They're right around league average in isolated power, but they also lead the league in strikeout percentage. 31% in the month of May is the highest in baseball against lefties, and a 3.8% walk percentage is the second lowest in baseball. So not getting on base very much, striking out a lot. Justin Steele's a guy who keeps the ball on the ground for the most part. I do think he'll pitch well in this game. If the Phillies decide to go with a bullpen game here, not really my favorite option. I'm going to take a lean here with the Chicago Cubs on the money line. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Detroit Tigers. We're going to see Joey Wentz and Josiah Gray on the mound. And this one, last year it was really tough to have a lot of faith in Josiah Gray when he was pitching in Nationals Park. He had an ERA above 6 and 67 2/3 innings at home, where his opponent's batting average was up there. His home runs, he gave up 19 in those 68 innings. But this year so far, a sub-4 ERA, a pretty low opponent's batting average. I think he's going to be able to pitch well in this spot. Against the Tigers team, it's just been subpar against right-handed pitchers this year in the month of May as well. On the other side, you got Joey Wentz. It's tough to have a lot of faith in his game right now. He's struggled at Comerica Park. He has struggled on the road. An ERA right around 6 at both, on the road and at home. On the road this season, he's given up 3 home runs and 15 innings of work, 6 walks and 12 strikeouts. His strikeout numbers have not been very good this year, and the Nationals already do a great job at limiting strikeouts at the plate. So I expect the Nationals to put the ball in play almost every at-bat against Wentz. Coming off a start for Wentz where he only went 2 2/3 innings, so he hasn't really been able to pitch too deep into ball games. The Nationals in the month of May are ranked 9th in baseball in team OPS against left-handed pitchers, right around league average in isolated power with a very low strikeout rate and a pretty high walk rate. I like their chances in this game. Even though I don't love this Nationals bullpen, I still think the Nationals win this game in the end. So give me the Washington Nationals on the money line. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the Atlanta Braves. We're going to see George Kirby and Jared Schuster on the mound in this one. The Seattle Mariners offense has been really inconsistent this year. It makes it tough to have a lot of faith in, even when some of the better starters are on the mound, like a guy like George Kirby. But against Jared Schuster, this is a spot where there's no excuses for Seattle. This should be a good spot to grab a win against a very tough opponent. George Kirby's been in great form in the month of May. He's gone deep into ball games, 6 2/3 innings, 7 innings, and 7 innings. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in each of those games, and he's faced a couple of tough lineups in the Rangers and Red Sox along the way. His last 13 2/3 against those teams. He's striking out batters. He's keeping the ball on the ground. He has a 33-30 ground ball to fly ball ratio, which is exactly what you want to see from a guy like Kirby, who, at times last year had issues giving up the home run ball. And we know the Braves can, they know a thing or two about the home run ball. So I do think Kirby is in line to pitch well in this game. And Jared Schuster, like I mentioned, there's no excuses for Seattle's offense here. He's got a 7.24 ERA. He has struggled in each of his first 3 starts of the season against the Nationals, Padres, and Rangers. All 3 of those games were Braves losses. He has issues with his control. He only has 8 strikeouts in 13 2/3 innings. So when you look at Seattle, their numbers against lefties have been better than against right-handed pitchers in the month of May. Their isolated power numbers aren't great, but their team OPS right around league average. To me, I think the Mariners get to Schuster for enough here for Kirby to just take care of the rest. And then the Mariners bullpen, when Kirby exits the game, has been one of the better bullpens in the month of May. So give me the Seattle Mariners on the money line. Next up, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Merrill Kelly and Rowanzi Contreras are your starters. To me, we have 2 starting pitchers going in different directions a little bit, especially when you look at their home and road splits in this matchup. As you got Rowanzi Contreras, who his last start wasn't too shabby against the Orioles. He only gave up 2 earned runs in that game, but 2 home runs in that one, making it 4 home runs in his last 3 starts. His control's been off a little bit, and the big concern for me is his strikeout numbers are dropping. When you look at his home and road splits, on the road this season, 24 innings of work, a 3.38 ERA. At home, however, he's got 21 innings of work and a 5.57 ERA, a much steeper opponent's batting average, more walks as well. So that is a concern in this spot against a tough Arizona Diamondbacks lineup. On the other side, you got Merrill Kelly, who's coming off a strong outing in his last game, giving up only 1 earned run with 9 strikeouts and 7 innings against the Oakland Athletics. And Merrill Kelly, not many pitchers pitch a lot better on the road than they do at home, but Merrill Kelly is one of those guys. He's got 22 2/3 innings away from home, a 1.19 ERA, 21 strikeouts, and a 217 opponent's batting average, only 1 home run allowed on the road. At home, he's got an ERA above 4, so he likes pitching away from Chase Field. And I think he pitches well here against a Pirates lineup that had a big game in the first game of the series, but overall in the month of May has just struggled against right-handed pitchers. So I'm going to take the Arizona Diamondbacks here behind Merrill Kelly on the money line. Next up, we see the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Dean Kramer and Kevin Gausman are your starters. Now, Kevin Gausman's got really good per 9 numbers. Strikeouts per 9, walks per 9, and home runs per 9. We saw that last year as well. And he's pitched really well at Rogers Center this season, a 2.05 ERA at home in 22 innings of work. Now, his 2 starts where he really struggled were against the Red Sox and the Astros. Both of those games were on the road. That's why his ERA away from home is at 4.09. But if you take those 2 starts out of the equation, Gausman's a Cy Young favorite, in my opinion, as he's just pitched that well. Even though he has that losing record at 2-3, that's why win-loss record really does not matter at all when looking at MLB statistics. And I think Gausman pitches well in this spot. I mean, the Orioles are a tough lineup to face. There's no doubt about that. But I still think Gausman's one of the better pitchers in the American League right now. And I also think Dean Kramer has made a lot of improvements in his game. I've been impressed with his stuff in his last 3 starts or so. I mean, he pitched well against the Braves on the road. Then he pitched really well against the Rays, one of the toughest lineups in baseball. 6 innings to shut out baseball. And then his last start, 5 2/3 innings against the Angels. He gave up 3 earned runs. But overall, I mean, those are 3 of the toughest lineups in baseball against right-handed pitchers right now. I got to give Kramer credit. He's facing a Blue Jays team now. It's another tough lineup, but out of those other 3 teams, the Blue Jays have not been nearly as good against right-handed pitchers in the month of May. I think Kramer can put together a good outing himself. I'm going to see a low-scoring game in this one. 2 good bullpens to go with it. Give me the under in Orioles Blue Jays. Next up, we see the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Milwaukee's going to be going with Freddie Peralta. No official starter for the Rays in this one. A game where I just don't have enough information personally and not a lot of faith in Freddie Peralta's game to, make an opinion one way or the other. I'm just going to pass on this one, but we'll talk about Freddie Peralta. On the road this year, he has struggled mightily, and that's why I just don't know what we're going to see from him in this game. 16 1/3 innings of work, a 7.16 ERA. But when you look at his road starts, he's had 3 road outings this season. One of those was sensational against the Colorado Rockies, believe it or not, at Coors Field. He went 6 innings, 2 earned runs, and 10 strikeouts, one of his best starts of the season. But the other 2 road starts, his last game against the Cardinals, where he gave up 6 earned runs, 5 walks, and 5 1/3 innings, so he's not in good form going into this game. And the other one was against the Padres back on April 15th. 5 more earned runs in 5 innings of work and a 10-3 Brewers loss. He's been inconsistent away from home. His last game, he gave up a lot of fly balls. That's pretty concerning for a guy like him, where he's had issues with the home run ball at times in his career. He's already given up 3 home runs in 17 innings in May. So to me, Freddie Peralta just too inconsistent for me to have a lot of faith in either side in this game, especially without knowing who the Rays are going to be going with. I've mentioned that the Rays bullpen, just as I mentioned the Brewers bullpen, pretty overrated right now. And when you look at the Sierra and the xFIP, we're already starting to see the regression from Tampa Bay. They had a rough series against the New York Mets. I'm just going to pass on this game, but if I had to lean, I guess it would be Tampa Bay. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Chicago White Sox. Lance Lynn going on the mound for Chicago. No official starter for the Royals. It's tough for me. I don't want to get my hopes up here with Lance Lynn. He was a starter that going into the season I thought was going to have a good year, but it has been everything but a good year for Lance Lynn. I mean, a 6.66 ERA so far this season, a 7.04 ERA away from, at guaranteed rate field. But, his last start was really strong against the Guardians. 7 innings, only 1 earned run. He gave up 2 unearned runs. 7 strikeouts in that game, no walks, no homers. However, when you look at that game, it was against the Guardians, who have been one of the weaker lineups in baseball against right-handed pitchers in the month of May, 28th in team OPS. And it was against the Guardians team that was without their best player by far, and Jose Ramirez. He was on the bereavement list at the time. And Josh Naylor left the game early with an injury. So you could argue the top 2 hitters on the team were out of the lineup at one point in that game, and they were already struggling, the Cleveland Guardians were, against righties to begin with. So now you're facing a Royals team that makes a lot of sharp contact. They're top 10 in baseball in the month of May in team OPS against righties. They're top 5 in isolated power. This is a much tougher spot for Lance Lynn. He just struggled against the Royals back on May 10th, where he gave up 7 earned runs and 9 base hits, 2 home runs to go with it, and a 9-1 Kansas City win. So for me, no reason to not take the Royals here. Give me the Kansas City Royals on the money line. Next up, we see the Oakland Athletics taking on the Houston Astros. We're going to see Kyle Muller and Framber Valdez on the mound in this one. Obviously, the Astros are huge favorites in this game, and, it makes sense. I mean, Framber's on the mound. He was one of the better pitchers in the American League last year. The Athletics have been one of the worst teams in baseball this season. Kyle Muller has not pitched very well this year. However, I do think that this price is a little bit out of hand, and we've seen a lot of underdogs cash on these weekends. I think the Athletics could at least compete in this game. I don't think they're going to win the game outright, but if we're getting 2.5 runs and still getting a decent price odds-wise, I say why not? I mean, Framber Valdez, like I said, he's pitched really well last year. This season, he is giving up a lot of sharp contact, a lot of barrels, and he has had some issues with the home run ball. When you look at his last 5 starts, he's given up at least 1 home run in 4 of those 5 games. And we saw him against the Chicago Cubs last time out. He struggled in that game. 4 innings of work. He had 8 strikeouts, but he gave up 7 base hits, 4 earned runs, and a home run. When you look at the Oakland Athletics in the month of May, they've been very competitive against left-handed pitchers. When you look at their isolated power, they're top 10 in baseball. Their team OPS is top 15 in baseball. And their strikeout percentage, believe it or not, is pretty low at 19.3%, one of the lowest in the league. So I think Oakland can do enough offensively to keep themselves in this game until the very end. And, if they lose by 2 runs, we still win, getting those 2.5 runs. So give me the Oakland Athletics plus the 2.5 runs on the run line. Maybe you could sprinkle a little bit on the money line as well. But Kyle Muller has struggled quite a bit, so I would just keep it safe by taking those 2.5. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Clayton Kershaw and Jack Flaherty are your projected starters. Clayton Kershaw's last start against the Twins wasn't his best. He gave up a lot of base hits, but mostly singles. He still only gave up 2 earned runs in 4 innings with 7 strikeouts. Just his pitch count got up there quite a bit early on, but he was still missing bats. The St. Louis Cardinals have been so-so against lefties in the month of May, starting to improve a little bit in the last few games, but Jack Flaherty, it's tough to have a lot of faith in his game right now. He's been very inconsistent. His last start was excellent. I mean, against the Brewers, 7 innings, 10 strikeouts, no earned runs, definitely his best start of the year by far. However, that was a game where the Cardinals won 18-1. Flaherty had a ton of run support early on. They were up 4-0 by the second inning. It's a lot easier to pitch when you have a big lead. And even before that game, we saw him give up 3 earned runs and 5 walks against the Cubs. Before that, 10 earned runs against the Angels. So he's been very untrustworthy, and he's pitched against these Dodgers back on April 28th. He went 4 2/3 innings. He gave up 7 base hits, 5 total runs. 4 of those were earned, a home run in that game as well, in a 7-3 Dodgers win. While Kershaw faced these Cardinals, and it was one of the best starts he's had all year. 7 innings of shutout baseball, only 2 base hits, no walks, and 9 strikeouts. I got to go with the Dodgers here. Kind of looks a little too easy, but give me the Dodgers on the money line. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Texas Rangers. Connor Seabold and Andrew Heaney are your starters. I got to take the Rangers here on the run line. I just think their offense is superior. I think Andrew Heaney is a lot better option here on the bump as well. Andrew Heaney's last start, 6 innings, 1-run baseball, and 9 strikeouts against the Oakland Athletics. And, we know the Oakland Athletics have been one of the worst teams in the league. However, against lefties, like I mentioned a couple of games ago, they're actually hitting lefties very well. Their strikeout percentage is low, and their OPS and isolated power numbers are solid. So for Heaney to put together that strong outing and an 11-3 Rangers win, pretty impressive stuff. Connor Seabold has struggled at Coors Field, but he's also struggled away from home. He hasn't had a really large sample size away from home, but still, in 3 games, 9 1/3 innings of work, a 4.82 ERA, a home run, 4 walks, and a 270 opponent's batting average. Not the best numbers there. So I got to take the Texas Rangers here and lay the 1.5 runs at home. Next up, we see the Miami Marlins taking on the San Francisco Giants. Jesus Luzardo and Alex Wood are your starters, a pair of southpaws on the bump. And I think Jesus Luzardo is the better option here on the mound. Alex Wood, has had some injury issues this season, so he's only gone 15 2/3 innings. And he's kind of had mixed results in those games, giving up a good amount of base runners. Gave up a home run in his last game against the Phillies. His strikeout numbers, 16 Ks and 15 2/3 innings, so not bad there, but 8 walks allowed is pretty steep, and the Marlins have had really good numbers, much better numbers against lefties than the Giants have. The Marlins in the month of May, top 15 in team OPS, top 6 in isolated power. And the Giants still with that Austin Slater, who's a lefty killer, basically, a right-handed batter that really hits left-handed pitchers really well. And the Giants they also traded Darren Ruff, who is another guy like Slater who hits lefties pretty well. So I don't think that the Giants' numbers are going to get too much better against lefties without Slater in the lineup. And I do think they struggle here against one of the better lefty options in the National League this year. I mean, Luzardo's got a 3.16 ERA. His last 12 innings of work, only 2 earned runs with 12 strikeouts. I think he pitches well here at a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Give me the Miami Marlins on the money line. Next up, it's the Minnesota Twins taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Pablo Lopez and Shohei Ohtani on the mound. 2 guys that are not really in the best of form going into this game. Both starters gave up 3 home runs and 5 earned runs in their last starts. But I do think Shohei Ohtani is still the better option in this one on the mound. And I also think the Angels lineup is a lot better against right-handed pitchers in the month of May. I mean, the Angels, 6th best in team OPS. The Twins ranked 20th in OPS against right-handed pitchers in May. Now, the Twins' isolated power numbers are a lot better, but their strikeout numbers are also pretty steep at 24.7%. That's the 5th highest in baseball. We know Shohei Ohtani, really good strikeout stuff. And with Mickey Moniak at the top of that lineup now for the Angels, a former #1 overall pick, an already dangerous lineup against righties is even more potent for the Angels. I think they get to Pablo Lopez, and I also think the Angels have the better bullpen, especially when you look at the Sierra in the month of May. Give me the Los Angeles Angels on the money line. Next up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the San Diego Padres. We're going to see Corey Kluber and Michael Wacha on the mound in this one. I think the Red Sox have the better lineup against right-handed pitchers, but I think San Diego has an even bigger advantage in the bullpen and in the starting pitching matchup, and I got to take the Padres at home on the money line in this one. Michael Wacha is not really somebody I've backed too often this year, but I can't deny he's in really good form going into this game. His last 3 starts against the Reds, Twins, and Royals, a combined 19 innings of work with only 1 earned run, no home runs, and 18 strikeouts. While Corey Kluber, although he struggled more so at Fenway than he had been on the road, he still hasn't been great away from home. 15 2/3 innings away from home, a 4.6 ERA. Pretty steep opponent's batting average, and only 11 strikeouts in those 15 2/3 innings. Overall this season, a 6.41 ERA. I got to take San Diego on the money line at home. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in Major League Baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.